each part of the soul, each part of the nefesh, how it works and how it affects us. The Sefer doesn't speak about the nefesh, ruach, neshama, chai, yechida on more of a national, collective scale. We'll do a piece from Hakitzaranu from Rav Sasson. We'll do a little piece on that at the end of the parak. But let's learn on page Samach Dalet. Page Samach Dalet. Until now, we were talking about nefesh, ruach, neshama, and how even the neshama itself was not really primarily part of us and inside of us. And we were talking about that for a few weeks. How we are able to draw a iris of the neshama into ourselves, but the ikar neshama is outside. But now we're talking about chai and yechida, which are different madregas that really. Madregas will see that more of the Nevi'im are able to experience somehow internally Madregas of big tzaddik and Mashiach, but even a regular person can have moments here and there, especially at the time of Mesiras Nefesh, where there can be some contact with these higher Madregas. So let's just learn a little bit about on page Samach Dalet. V'amakor l'chaim shenoivin v'mena koach haneshama u'chelik hachaya. The neshama itself draws its koiches from that which is called chaya, al shem shehiyah makor shemimena haneshama sho'eves chaya, because chaya itself is the makor, is the source from which the neshama draws its life. Lachein hachaya lefamim nikres neshama leneshama. Therefore, sometimes chaya is referred to as neshama leneshama, the soul of the soul. Darga zu ene b'soicha adam. This madrega of that's called chaya is not within the person. As we learned, that even the neshama really doesn't enter fully into the kaimas adam, into a person. But rather it transcends the person. And from there it illuminates, it affects the person. Hadarga chamisha shel haneshama nikras yechida. And the highest level of soul is called yechida. Shemimena hi hachayim hanitzchim. We'll talk more about yechida. He doesn't really discuss it much here. Ubaderes Elio from the Vilna Gaon, kased yechida eine ba'adam efes b'yimaysa Mashiach tishra ba'adam. The Vilna Gaon says that this madrega of yechida shebenefesh or yechida shebeneshama, this madrega of the soul is something which is we're only going to be able to experience internally. We're going to be able to live with it internally only in the days of Mashiach. Again, not everybody agrees with that, and the fact that we don't live with it on a regular basis doesn't mean that there aren't times where it's possible to have a connection to it. And the Vilna Gaon says that in the bracha that we make every morning, Elokai Neshama Shesat to be, that when we say Elokai, it's referring to my God, means the deepest part of Elokus that each one of us has is called Yechida. That's called Yechida. Look at footnote Gimel. Yesh Lavar Shai Dekoach Yechida Nitan Hasaga Shakol Metzias Adam Ha'olam Batel Elokai. When a person is that mitzias of yechida, again, even though it's something which is not in us but transcends us, it communicates to each and every one of us, and we can all connect to this, the truth that all of the mitzias that we're living in, all physical mitzias, is botel tasha. That all reality is Elokus. When our bodies are going to be completely refined, and they will no longer obstruct that or of the neshama, the light of the neshama, then there will be a permanent a permanent fusion, a connection, an integration of the body with all 5 levels of soul. Which really just nefesh, ruach, neshama. We spoke about it a little bit, and chai yechida are above. But when, by Tchias HaMesim, our bodies are going to be kelim that are going to be able to receive internally the madregas of chai and yechida. And then it will be clear to each and every one of us that everything is elokus. There won't be any chatzitza, anything obstructing between the body and the soul. And will be kelim that are able to contain all madregas of the neshama. And that's why it's called yechida. Yechida is the lashon of echad, of one, of unity. Shemikoach madregazu nizkel hasi ketzat kol hametzias botla gamri leelokusa. It's with the koach of this part of the soul that a Jew is able to recognize that everything is elokus, everything is godliness. And we're capable of having that. The tzaddikim have connection to that even in this world. We'll talk more about that. And by the Hoshanas we say Yechida Liyachtach. Yechida Liyachtach. Shemikoach chelach ha-yechida sheben-neshama. From that part of us, the Yechida sheben-neshama, Ev shel ha'akir b'shleimus yichud habayrei. And it's because of that Jews, even Jews who are, we spoke about this many times, as Tanya explains in the Yuches and Yutes, that even Jews who are not connected to Torah mitzvahs are prepared to give up their lives for Hashem, for Am Yisrael. There's a certain reality that a Jew is able to connect to, and he doesn't know where it's coming from and how, but there is this part of who we are that knows in the clearest way that this world is not the end. This is not the end. That there's something beyond this world. So Elokai is Yechida, the Goyen says, and Neshama Nesata B'Tahirihi is Chaya. V'yesh Lavar Shekol Inyani Tumah Kshurim L'Inyani Hamisa V'chol Inyani Tahar Shaykh L'Dveikus B'Chaim V'Siluk Hamisa. Tumah is the result of death, and Tahara means connection to life. L'chein HaChaya, that's why it's called Chaya. Shekol Inyani Hu Shorish L'Chaim, because Chaya is the root of the soul, and therefore is the root of existence of life. Nemez b'neshama tahirahi. That's the connection between neshama and tahira. The opposite of tahara is tumah. Tumah is misa, is death. Tahara is life, and therefore it's called chaya, which means the vitality of life. Life. Page Samachay. Just on each nakuda here, there are many dozens of sorm written about. We're just getting an introduction, Hakdama. The ikar makom shavay avodas ha'adam is a bechelik haruach. So neshama, chaya, and yechida are very high madregas. The ikar, the main avodah of a person on a regular day, the main avodah of a person is the chelik of ruach. But le'namar v'hi ha'adam lenefesh chaya, yitegamoklis leruach memalala. That a person is a ruach, it's not memali, but memalala, that's what the Targum says. A ruach that speaks, that is able to speak. B'chach kosav hagrob b'safar d'tzneusa, in his parish on that part of the Zohar Kodesh, and the Goyen writes the following: V'inyan ki haruach ba'adam hu ha'adam. The essence of man is that we live with from moment to moment is ruach. Avla nefesh hu hamadrega lamati menu. A nefesh is a madrega that's lower than ruach. V'chein kosav hagrob b'shir ta'olam nechlak l'shamayim eretz avir. The Vilna Gaon writes that the world is divided to shamayim, heaven, eretz, the earth, and avir, the air. V'chein neshama nechlekes l'gimel chalokim shel nefesh ruach neshama, and these correspond to the three parts of the soul: nefesh, ruach, neshama. Neshama mehashamayim, neshama is from shamayim. Ruach is meha'avir, from the air, and nefesh hi ba'aretz, the earth. Because of, and the Goyen writes, v'ruach min ha'avir, v'ikar ba'adam, v'hu ikar ha'adam. The ikar of the person is ruach. Because of agra, v'ikar chiyusa shel adam hu ha'ruach, v'hu ha'adam ha'makabel schar v'aynish. That part of us, that's where the war, the ikar milchama takes place between the nefesh shel kis, the nefesh shel bahamis, the yitzhak toiv, and the yitzhak hara. The ikar is the ruach. And therefore, it's through the ruach that a person is able to receive schar v'aynish, reward, there's punishment. There's bechira chavshis, free choice. Kedua v'hu ha'margish, v'hu kol kaychaysa v'chushav, and through there we are able to have emotions and to feel and to sense and so on. All the kaychis v'chushav. V'neshama ha'seichel. The neshama is the seichel, is expressed through the mind. Hamalamed la'adam Daas. The Goyen writes that from where the person receives Daas, v'umazol shel adam, and we spoke about what mazel means, u'malach l'kirdur, v'hi b'shamayim. And as we learned, the neshama is not in the guf, the neshama is b'shamayim, but from the neshama, from shamayim, there is this influence of the neshama into the mind, and through the mind to the ruach as well. V'hi b'shamayim rak nitzoitzes misnoitzes mimeno al ha'adam lan higol haskila. They're only nitzoitzes sparks that come from the neshama into the person, into the ruach, and from the ruach into the nefesh. V'heche b'zagra, ha'agayin Rebitza Isaac Chaver, Midrashes, and the Vilna Gaon, the Talmud of Vilna Gaon's Talmud, Rabbi Isaac Chaver speaks about this in his drushes, and he writes the following: B'zel Shana, Inyan nefesh ruach neshama shabadam, the inyan of the nefesh ruach neshama in the person, shan neshama mishamayim. The neshama is mishamayim, and the nefesh is miyasayid haaretz. The ruach be'emtza. So the neshama is from above, the nefesh is miyasod of the earth, and the ruach is that place in between shamayim and haaretz. That's the ruach. Ruach be'emtza. Shan nefesh hu hamis'avel chol in yonim gashmim umutuavim. The nefesh is that part of us that craves for earthly things, for physical things. That's the nefesh. The nefesh is that which is most connected to our bodies, and it craves for earthly things. That's the nefesh. That's what it means. That's what the Vilna Gaon means when he says that the nefesh is min ha'aretz. And even for things that are mituavim, even for things that are disgusting. Ran neshama kula kadosh mishamayim. The neshama wants to have nothing to do with anything that's physical. Akidekach, that we learned that at the moment that a person does an aveira chas v'shalom, the neshama disengages. The neshama can't be involved in such a thing as an aveira. But neshama kula kadosh mishamayim. V'mi'ira b'nitzaitzes al ruach ha'adam shu b'leiv. The neshama, which is in shamayim, it illuminates, it shines its light upon the ruach of the person, again through the seichel, and the ruach of the person, which is believe in the heart. We were learning from the Balatanya 3 weeks ago. The Alter Rabbi explains in that way the pasuk Hashmini es karlech, Irini es mar Hashmini es karlech, karlech arif, umarach nava. Hashmini es karlech, meaning that it's as if the nefesh is calling out, or the person is calling out to the neshama. Hashmini es karlech. I want to hear your voice. I want to be able to connect to the neshama. I want to be able to receive or from the neshama, because the neshama is transcendent, and we want the neshama to affect us. Shabo ha-bechira, but the ruach is the place of bechira. That's the part of us where we feel bechira, choice. Last is ritzani yisbarach v'avadasav and mitzvaysi yisbarach. So the neshama is transmitting to the guf. The neshama is speaking to the guf in the language of ruchnis. That the guf should be focused on spiritual matters. And even when the guf engages in eating and sleeping, it should be for the tachlis of avodas Hashem. That's the message that the neshama is transmitting to the nefesh. But depending upon how embedded and lost that person is in physical life, it's a question of whether he hears that or he doesn't hear that. So if a person refines his body, and he's keeping mitzvahs very careful, and he learns a lot, and he davens a lot. So then the nefesh receives a clearer transmission of that light from the neshama. It receives the aura of the neshama, and it's able to translate the different spheres as we're going to learn. Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes, Netzach, Hayit, Yesod puts it all together into Malchus. So, for instance, if a person is very much attached to physical things, so when the sphere of Gvura, for instance, when the light of Gvura is descending, so that person who's very connected to physical things will interpret Gvura, will receive the Gvura in a way that is not lefi the rasa of the neshama. Instead, the person will be afraid of silly things, or will get angry, Gvura kas, some other expression of Gvura. That's not what the neshama wants. The neshama is saying, I want you to express Gvura, this midah of Gvura, in the way of elokus, in the language of the neshama, to be misgaber on things, in the Gvura of kedusha, whatever Gvura means. We're not going into now. With a hav, if a person's the midah of a hav, of chesed, so there's the aura of chesed, and the neshama is trying to transmit that aura, and to send iris of the sphere of chesed into the person, into the nefesh, into the guf. But if that person is not a kli to receive the or of the midah of chesed of ahava, so then he's talking about how much he loves his sushi, and how much he loves his whatever he loves, his goldfish, whatever it is that he loves. But he's not connecting to the ahava becomes an ahava nefula. It's love that it comes from a very, very exalted place. It comes from the neshama, and the neshama is trying to make its voice heard in the guf. And there's a part deep inside the person that's calling out, Hashmini es kailech. I want to hear that voice, but by the time it reaches the station, that person is so mixed up with physical things that the midah of ahava, the sphere of ahava, comes out in something silly. The love of something that's not what the neshama wanted. And so each time that happens, the neshama's disappointment, as the Sfarim describe, is unbearable. It's unbearable. The Tanya uses very, very strong lashon to describe. It's not even talk about. If you learn Tanya, he says such l'shainas. The Alter Rebbe about taking like his kilo, you're taking the head of the king and you're putting it into a dirty toilet. That's the lashon he uses. Such a lashon. But something very, very great came down from Shemayim. The midah of ahava, of chesed, of gvura, of tiferes. These are the midas of elokus that came from your own neshama. Your neshama is trying to talk to you, and by the time it goes through your filter, it comes out as something which is a perversion of the midah of ahava. It comes out to be a distortion of the midah of gvura. Every single second of our lives, the spheres are working through us. Every second of our lives. Chesed, gvura, tiferes, netzach, hayit. It's every second. When a person becomes completely focused on something, that's already called yesod. When you become fixated on something. In Kedusha, it means you have the deepest pleasure you have in your life is to learn a Blat Gemara, to sing a niggin. And you become completely bound to that oinig of learning a Gemara, of davening, of whatever it may be in Kedusha, of sitting in the sukkah. Whatever that is, you become, or doing a chesed, you become so bound to that. That's called the midah of yesod. We spoke about that. We'll talk more about that in Yitzchak, but that's the midah of yesod. Pagam habris, therefore, in a more general way, the meaning of pagam habris is not just, God forbid, that particular act of spilling one seed, but pagam habris means when you become fixated and obsessed with things that are not important. That's called pagam habris. In other words, your biggest pleasure in life is something that's not important. Your biggest pleasure is eating. Your biggest pleasure is sleeping. Your biggest pleasure in life is watching a movie or something. It means that's called Pagam HaBris. The bris of a person with Kodesh Baruch Hu, who is with one's own neshama, is to take the messages of the neshama that are dripping into us, these iris, these nitzoiches, these sparks of the soul, of each one of our souls, and that comes through Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, and so on, each one of the midas of Elokus, and our avoid is to receive, to make ourselves into kelim that can receive these drops of light, these drops, these iris from above, and bind them in such a way to ourselves that the deepest pleasure that I have in life right now is learning a piece of Torah, or saying Ashrei Yeshua V'Secha. It's the biggest irony. Or, helping my wife with the kids. And the midah of chesed, the midah of ahava. And the midah of ahava becomes something which I'm bound to in a very deep way. And I feel that this gives me, this is not that I'm doing my wife a favor. I can't stand doing this. I'd rather do this. I'd rather do that. But when a person feels an oinig in doing the Ratzon Hashem, he delights in that. He enjoys that. He feels connected to that. That's called Tikkun HaBris. That's called Tikkun HaBris. In a general way, that's called Tikkun HaBris. Bris means a covenant. It means you're bound to something in a deep way. Pagam HaBris, the way that it's used, we've been learning in Chabuz Yosef Tzaddik all these years, and then you have Pagam HaBris. That's a very, very extreme, destructive energy that we're working on all of our lives. But b'derech klal, that's what Pagam HaBris means. It means I am not connecting to the neshama that is speaking to me, my own neshama that's speaking to me, in such a way. I'm not connecting ad kedei kach that it's something that I feel deeply connected to. I don't feel deeply connected to this. So a person's davening and he's not thinking about it, he doesn't care about the davening, he's just saying the words. It's Pagam HaBris.
Is it a steer to have both? To have a connection to both? Like, let's say the ruchnius portion, and then let's say the not ruchnius portion?
On some level it is. On some level it is a steer. Much of the teachings of Baal Shem Tov, as you know, is how to take the act of eating and other physical things and to trace that physical act back to the Ratzon of Hashem, and to make eating into something which is not just a plain physical act, but something which is imbued with spirituality as well. So there is a way to cross over. That's much of Chassidus is about that. How everything in this world is about Avodas Hashem and b'chol drechecha de'eyu, and to the extent that a person is able to serve Hashem through eating and sleeping and so on, so he's to the extent that he's able to do that, he's decreasing that steer between those two worlds, between Shemayim and Aretz. That's our avoid, is to do that. But that's not the same thing as a person who he in davening is thinking about Kiddush, and this whole Metzias is in this world. That's a Pagam HaBris. He's poigim in that covenant between, not just between Hashem and himself, between his own neshama and himself. It's a Pagam. The neshama is crying over that. The neshama is broadcasting Elokus all the time. Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, Netzach, Hoyd. Each one of those meters, what they mean, which the next time we're going to be doing. The neshama is constantly broadcasting the spheres Elyonis. How we collect those broadcasts, how we interpret them, and how they affect our behavior. That's through ruach. That's our bechira. That's our bechira, and the midah of chesed could be thrown into the lowest place. God forbid. Gvura could be in the lowest place, depending on how the person interprets that. What I was talking about Yesod, is that the inyan of Yesod is concentration and connection. So if a person sees that in his life, his Yiddishkeit is without pleasure, it's without oneg, physical things are what give him pleasure, that's a serious pagam habris. The bris is damaged. There's something wrong. Doesn't mean it's irreparable. Hashem person, we fix it. But that's. I just had a very wonderful. I was talking to one of the bar mitzvah brothers. We have a bar mitzvah this Shabbos. So I met with the bar mitzvah bacher. It's very sweet. And he came to meet me. He was all fashvist. He was playing hockey. So I was talking to him about hockey once a week. I was talking to him about hockey. I don't know anything about hockey. I was never at that time when I was growing up. It wasn't so popular. Maybe now it is. I don't know. We used to play basketball, football, and baseball, and hockey was more for going. So, but now I understand it's very popular. So he was all fashvitz. So I was talking about hockey. And he was telling me that he plays. I said, "What kind of hockey?" He plays regular hockey and ice hockey. I said, "Ice hockey? Yeah, he has skates. He plays ice hockey." So I was asking him what position does he play? What does he do? And he was telling me that he's very excited. He was very excited talking about the hockey. And I asked him then, "What's more important to you, being a Jew or playing hockey?" It's a terrible question, right? and a second before, he was like this little boy that was just all excited, telling me about hockey, and then he looked at me and he said, "No, being a Jew, He said, "That's who I am." He said, "Very good. That's it. You got it. You're ready for the bar mitzvah. The rest of your life is to understand what you just said. That being a Jew is who I am, not what I do. It's who I am." And this little boy said, "It's very, very good." He said, "No, I like playing hockey, but I'm a Jew." But he understands what he was saying, or he knew it was. If you meeting the rabbi, you better say something like that. Give the right answer or something. I don't know, but the way he said it, I felt that even though he might not understand exactly what he's getting himself into, what it means, but part of him that comes from a very high place. Answered the question correctly. There's a difference between what a person does and what is it in your life. It's even though you could love playing hockey, and that's a lot of fun and you enjoy it. But the tachlis of our lives is to perfect ourselves to such a degree that the biggest earning that we have in life is serving Hashem. That's called tikkun habris. The reason that particular part of ourselves, that biological inyan, is because that's the deepest physical pleasure that a person can have. So it's the highest and most challenging avodah of tikkun comes dafka in that area of sexuality. But that's not the whole meaning of tikkun habris. Tikkun habris means that the spheres converge in that point to give you that oinig of serving Hashem in a way of chesed, in a way of gvura, in a way of tiferos, and netzach, and hoid, and that's your oinig in life is to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's really called tikkun habris. That's what tikkun habris means. So that's what he's talking about. That we have the Vilna Gaon says that there's the part of us that's Shemaim, there's the part of us that's Aretz, the body, and there's a part that's in between that's called Avir, or Ruach, air, Ruach. And there comes Bechira, and so on. And our avoid, of course, is to connect as much as we can to that part of us that's most intimately connected to the Oiros of the Neshama, which is the Seichel, and through thinking, and through learning Torah, and through trying to understand, and to concentrate, and to meditate, to contemplate the point of our existence, we're able to use those messages of the Neshama in a way of Kedusha, in a way to serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's really what the whole program is. When Neshama Kula Kodesh M'Shamayim Me'ira B'Nitzoitzes Al Ruach Adam Shu B'Leiv Sheba B'Chira Lasses B'Tzoni Yisbarach V'Avados B'Tzoni Yisbarach V'Logoshim B'Nam Gashmim K'may Tfilin B'Tzitzis and Sukkah and so on B'Dameim Shebezem Eschaber Sanefesh M'Neshama. So when we take all the matters of our lives, all physical things in our life, including eating and sleeping and so on, and the mitzvahs that Hashem gave us, which are mitzvahs and gashmis, and we we can make this connection between Shamayim and Aretz. That's why the tzaddik is called, the tzaddik is the Achid Shmai v'Aretz. The tzaddik is a person who's able to join together heaven and earth. That was the dream that Yaakov Avinu had. Of the Sulam that's Mutzav Aretz, Reshim Megeh Shamayim, the ladder that connects heaven and earth. And Yaakov is in between. Yaakov is lying on the ground, but the avoid is making that connection between Hinei Malach Elokim Oilim v'Yordim Bo. Bo means the person himself, and each one of us is that connection between Shamayim and Aretz. V'hainu she'avodas ha'bechira shel Adam zeheichen lahamid she'ifaisa. This is what I was just talking about. The avodah of one's bechira is heichen lahamid she'ifaisa, to mature and to recognize or to feel a longing for things that are of Shamayim, to long for things that are beyond this world, that are higher than the world, or, as Chaim is saying, even things of this world, but how to use them as kelim to connect to the higher world. Lahamid she'ifaisa v'hagashaisa ha'im b'rotzen l'dvekas b'Hashem Yisbarach b'asagis hagoshes na'alus b'avodas Hashem, to make that choice, to use these nitzotzes, these oris, in order to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or livcha b'kach she'ifas haruach shelo, or to make the choice that these she'ifas of the ruach, the wind, the air inside of us is sho'ef. It's a longing and wanting. That's the spirit, the ruach. What do you want? What do you long for? What are your she'ifas? What's blowing inside? Which direction? That's the ruach. She'ifas ruach shel tia laharbes kinyonei olam hazeh v'lirdef achrei tayvas aguf. When the person's she'ifas are for this world and not for that which is beyond this world, so that choice is that choice between Shamayim and Aretz is through Ruach, primarily through Ruach. And the Vilna Gaon says this in many places, that the Ruach is the Adam. The Iker is of the person is the Ruach. Ba'emek HaDvarim, the bottom page Samachet. We learn that the nefesh of a person is poil by way of the works, by way of the liver. Ruach belev, the seat, or the vehicle through which the ruach operates within a person, is the heart, and the shama is derech, the moach, the brain, the mind. Again, it doesn't mean that it's in that place, it's something physical, but it's way of operating. Therefore, each part of us is longing, has a taiva for its shorish. Hanefesh la'ochel, the nefesh which is from the earth, is earthly. Its taiva is la'ochel, shesiya, to eat and to drink. Because what the nefesh is responsible for, what the nefesh wants, is to see to it that this body gets what it needs, and that this body is healthy, that this body is growing. And the Zohar Kodesh says, therefore all physical taivas are rooted in the liver, in the blood. The ruach of a person is where the midas are coming from. It has taivas for kavod and for Aish, and so on. Umidas hakina v'agaiva v'shar hamidas halalu yem hagoshish b'leiv. In terms of the negative use of these midas, it's in the heart. It comes through the heart. There's a nikra nefesh v'ruach bahamis. That's called the nefesh and the ruach bahamis, how the nefesh and ruach are being used by this person for physical things. And that's called the ruach nefesh bahamas. And the reason it's called bahamas is because animals also have such things. Animals also have these taivas. The neshama, which is not in the body, the neshama which is above the body, the neshama which is primarily in Shemayim, and the neshama she chelik elokom imal misave ledvarm elokim. The neshama, the taiva of the neshama is felokus, for godliness. V'b'moch, which is transmitted to us by way of the mind. V'b'moch shu mokum hamachshav, which is the mokum of machshav. Page samach vav. The tafkid adam, as I was explaining a minute ago, the tafkid of our responsibility in life, the tafkid adam who la hamlech es neshama la ver haguf, to be mamlech the neshama over the guf. That Shemayim should rule over Aretz. That the neshama, that the voice hashminius koilech, harinius marayich hashminius koilech, that I should be able to hear the will of the neshama in a very strong way, of elokus. Lahamlech es neshama levar haguf. That's the tachlis of our avoda. Lahamlech es neshama levar haguf, to be bottled to the or of the neshama, to be bottled to Ratzon Hashem, which Mimela the person will begin to feel more and more of a tanug. Every word of davening becomes a pleasure. Every word of learning Torah becomes a pleasure. Every mitzvah, every ma'aseh Torah becomes a pleasure, becomes the deepest oinig, because the person's connecting to the or of the neshama, and the neshama has a malchus over the guf. Zenasai de heruach, she ikar ha'odam, k'ma shekosav Yechezkel, el asher yesh shama haruach laleches. Asher yesh shama haruach laleches, the ikar of a person. Pirish Rashi, haruach is harotzen laleches. Ruach is the rotzen of the free choice of the person, is the ruach. K'ma shekosav v'nefesh chaim, shuv el, sheharuach sher b'leiv. That the ruach is in the heart. Umisham sherish harotzen, and from there comes the will of a person. The highest rotzen comes from Kesser, from the crown. But in the guf, the rotzen is from the ruach. V'chein koach habechira, and the man's choice. She'odam shu haruach boicher im laleches achrei neshama. The man, the person who is ruach, makes this choice. Boicher is the oisis beruach, and the person makes a choice. Im laleches achrei neshama. What is it that you want more? What's the malchus inside of you? Is it the neshama or is it the nefesh? Is it Shemayim or is it Aretz? And that choice is the choice that takes place in between, which is the avir, which is the air, which is the ruach, which is the leiv, which is b'chira chavshis. B'chein kosav agoin Yitzchak Isaac Chaver Pischei Shaar. Rabbi Isaac Chaver writes in Pischei Shaar, "Hanefesh ruach neshama. Hanefesh ruach neshama shebal shalosh mekarmes b'moach leiv v'kaved." The nefesh is the liver, the ruach is the heart, and the moach, the neshama is the moach. B'mes kol achatoim heim b'nefesh shebekaved shebo heim hamidas v'atayvis and so on. V'leiv shom haruach. V'sach shem mizug. The zivug ben hakoved v'halev, hainu, shekol hamidas shebenefesh yupoilem aydei harotzen hatov shebelev. The avod of a person is that all of the person's midas, all of the taivas, should function according to the will of the good choice of the rotzen tov that's made by the person's ruach, that bechira of ruach. The rotzen shebelev tzar shia nidon al pi seichel shebemoach, and the rotzen of the ruach is determined by the thinking, by the thoughts that a person has, by learning, by thinking, by deciding. Shesham ha-neshama, because the moach is the place of the neshama. Again, it doesn't mean that the neshama is there, but it's through the moach, through the mind, that the areas of the neshama are able to be communicated to the ruach. On page Samach Zayin, just let's do this. Bitui noisaf l'shloishes achalokim B'yachas l'tziras adam shne'emar b'gmar sheish shloisha shutfim ba'adam. The Gemara says, everybody knows, that there are three shutfim, three partners in man's creation or in man's life. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Aviv v'Imai. Imai, the mother, is keneged chelik hanefesh. The mother, whose main concern is our being alive and being healthy and being well, the mother corresponds to the level that's called nefesh, to that part of us that's called nefesh. And therefore, each one of us was formed inside our mother's womb. It's the nefesh. Aviv, father, mevi is chelik haruach. And that doesn't mean that the father is more of a spiritual person than the mother. I'm not going to go into that right now. But the father's inyan is ruach, the choices, and so on. Shumam is hachelik hayosim mezukach b'adam, which is a more refined part of the person, is ruach. That corresponds to the father. HaKadosh Baruch Hu maybe is chelik ha-neshama. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the shutfus of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the chelik of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's called, inside each and every one of us, the neshama is called the chelik Eloka Mimal. That's the chelik of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the chelik of the nefesh, that chelik of us that's called nefesh, is really mostly connected to the mother. The chelik that's called ruach is mostly connected to our fathers. And the chelik that's neshama, which is the chelik Eloka Mimal mamish, the chelik of Elokus, that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Okay, we'll continue Bez Hashem next time. Do we have a minyan?